I'm sure most people in the FGC already realize, but there's been a strange occurrence recently of what is now considered a thing. Anime fighters nowadays are now getting realized as a thing. I'm saying that is because back in the day, that was something that was considered really niche with a very small community. As of now, you got games like Dragon Ball FighterZ, games like Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle and Guilty Gear that is getting publicity. And people are now beginning to realize that anime fighters are genuinely interesting and a thing that people should try out. But one thing that I also want to mention is it wasn't always like this. Now mind you, I wasn't in the FGC for too long, but I do remember those times before, and I'll like to tell you about it. So, to start off, somewhere around 2008 or 2007, one of those years, there was a game that revolutionized fighting games to this day. And that game, which we all know, Street Fighter 4. During that time, Street Fighter 4 was the game that FGC, or more like it was FGC. But during that time, a lot of people had this weird mindset, and it kind of plagued other games. And as years go on, it kind of surfaced. You have people that were like, hey, if your game wasn't a Capcom fighting game, it did not matter. That's just me exaggerating it. But if it wasn't Street Fighter 4 or Marvel's Capcom, Ultimate Marvel's Capcom 3, then your game was considered niche, and a lot of people who are Capcom fighting game players, they would talk mad shit or just look down upon other games. And in my opinion, that was what occurred from 2008 all the way to 2016. And if I had to think about it, there was this weird pyramid, right? You had Capcom fighting games at the top. That was the best. Nothing could top that. Nothing at all. And then you had 3D fighting games like Tekken, Soul Calibur, Virtual Fighter. But during that time, Virtual Fighter was only big just a little bit until Tekken 6, which had a large community, but it was insignificant compared to Street Fighter. And then there was Soul Calibur. Soul Calibur 4 was a lot smaller than Tekken 6 at the time. Oh my god, that's my phone. So, anyways, going back on topic. One thing I also want to mention from 3D fighting games, then there was the Smash community. Now, this is where I'm a little, iffy, because I want to put Smash just under 3D fighting games, but I also have to consider that Smash, or more like I would say Melee, is only big in Western audience. It's not really a thing in Japan at all, and it highly emphasizes an evil Japan that happened in these recent times where Melee wasn't even on the roster. So it goes to show that it's only living in the Western audience. Mind you, the Melee community is extremely large, but in the pyramid, you gotta take consideration that Soul Calibur and Tekken 6, they were played worldwide. And then, just right under there, was the anime games. And from that point on, any game from those community, just like, what, you're playing Blaze Blue? Who gives a shit? That's whatever. Yeah, this is not Melee, so who cares? Or Street Fighter player, you look at them, what? What's that? Under that Ember? Who cares? That was the mindset. Now, and there's also people that plagues other games. You got people who are just like, what? You're playing Mortal Kombat? Basically a exaggerated, watered down Street Fighter with no footsies. Some people were like that. But the reason why is because Street Fighter 4 and Marvel's Capcom 3 was such a driving force. It was so crazy. Even after when Marvel 3 lost its support of Ultimate Marvel's Capcom 3, there was still a lot of people that played it. It's insanity. So I also want to bring up the reason why I'm, even giving a brief history of that. Well, even though that was the mindset at the time and those games were booming, and even though there were anime games, you had Under Night Ember, you had Blaze Blue, which ironically enough, Blaze Blue Calamity Trigger came out also in 2008, and it was supposed to compete with Street Fighter. Really bold if you take in consideration how influential Street Fighter was at its time. And, you know, if you kind of look at it, it just swatted Blaze Blue. Or more like it's, you know, any other game swatted anime games in general. It was like really small tournaments, and, you know, no one really cared unless you were part of that community. But what's interesting enough, for us to keep going off topic, is something dramatically changed, and that all occurred in 2016. What I'm going to refer to you guys as the release of Street Fighter V. Now, mind you, during the release of Street Fighter V, the game had a really rocky startup, very bad. You know, when people say there's the good, the bad, and the ugly, there was very few good because you had a new Street Fighter game. It was going to be super esports. Everyone's excited. New characters, new engine. But then the bad started showing up, and you got really weird character models, small roster, no story mode, and then the ugly, actually I want to put the character roster as part of the ugly. Just lack of offline options for the casuals, and one big thing was how easy it was compared to its predecessor, Street Fighter 4, and that was a big issue. And even till now, there's a lot of people that just genuinely do not like Street Fighter 5, and it's because of that game having such a dramatic effect of how many people did not like how that game came out, that other people had to play other games to get their fix of fighting games. And ironically enough, it gave rise to other games that now got the scene that they deserve. Tekken 7, Guilty Gear, shoot, even Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle. I go to my local tournament and that's the main one that they're doing. Dragon Ball Fighters, and before I even go to Dragon Ball Fighters, mind you, the second thing that happened, which is why I think this is really important, is not only that Street Fighter V did bad, but it was also its other big boom, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. And we already know how that game it didn't even go to its first EVO. The reason I'm bringing this up is because even though in the past, because they were so dominant and everyone was just like, your game doesn't matter, it took to those two juggernauts to fall down, and it gave exposure to games that deserve the exposure. And now people get hype of Tekken 7. There's a whole dome of people watching Tekken 7. You got people like Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle, even though it wasn't the main stage, it still got hype. Guilty Gear, and other games that will come in the future. And I find that really interesting because usually people will talk so much about those games, and it's now getting the attention that it deserves. Those games are phenomenal, and I always played them. I was a filthy anime player, and there would be so many people that would just walk past me and not even want to play because it was anime. It was a really niche scene, and it makes me happy to see that. And what really pushed the gun, what really pushed the scene of anime was Dragon Ball Fighters. The fact that an anime game was able to surpass Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite in terms of sales and marketing put them on the map. And not only that, anime fighters are now becoming more esports, since Arc System Works, the godfather of anime fighting games, are now having their own circuit. It's crazy. I never thought that I would see the day a lot sooner than I anticipated, which is why I'm making this video, to kind of express my my gratitude to those games. And there are people out there that really likes it, and not to like shoehorn or talk bad about Street Fighter, because it's with all its problems and Marvel's Capcom Infinite, I do think that the game at its core are solid. Both games are solid at its core, but it has so many faults that just have people dropping it. Marvel's Capcom, more extreme than Street Fighter 5, but another thing you have to also take into consideration. Oh my god, my phone. I apologize for that. Yeah, I gotta turn that down. But another thing you also gotta take into consideration is the entrance. Street Fighter 5 still has the most entrance at EVO and a lot of tournaments. That I don't see ever gonna change, because it is Street Fighter. It has some of the Godfathers in there, Daigo, Tokido, so many good players. And regardless of the state of that game, it's still Street Fighter. But let us all remember that from this point on, we may get more anime exposure, and I'm happy about that. I like that. And with that, I want to ask you guys this question: what is your thoughts on anime fighting games? Do you think that they got the hype that they deserve? Do you not think that? Or if you do, is there any particular game that you think Arc System Works should make? What is your hopes about other games like 3D fighting games or the 2D fighting games? And even though I didn't really say much about Melee, the Melee community, despite its its high and lows, I highly respect them. They kept a 2001 game alive till now, and regardless, however anyone talks bad about the community, because that's one game that I think that every traditional fighting game player makes fun of, and it always comes to the term, is Smash really a fighting game? Which I'll make a video about that, next time. Regardless how you see it, I want to make one big point so all the Smash players have forever bragging rights. If Smash were to die now, they forever have this one bragging right. They dragged a game from 2001 all the way to 2018. If that is not the most supported game I've ever seen, I don't know what is. And usually when a new game drops, it dies immediately. So that's one thing I want all Smash players to know that they can hold on to, is they're extremely supportive of their game. And regardless if Nintendo supported it or not, or people talk bad about them, always keep that in mind that you guys kept that game alive. Other than that, guys, I'll see you next time.